Welcome everyone again to another episode of the ideaXme show, that show that profiles the humans behind the really big ideas that are shaping our world, inspiring the future and future creators. And for all those that love great stories, I'm Ira Pastor, your life sciences ambassador along for the journey. So as a little background, the Department of Veterans Affairs of the United States, otherwise known as the VA, is a federal cabinet-level agency. It provides comprehensive healthcare services to military veterans at over 1,000 VA medical centers and outpatient clinics located across the country. It also provides several non-healthcare related benefits like disability compensation, vocational rehabilitation, educational assistance, home loans, and life insurance, as well as burial memorial benefits. The VA currently serves over 9 million enrolled veterans each year. They employ over 377,000 people and have an annual budget of over $200 billion. Within the Veterans Administration structure, the Office of Research and Development is focused on improving the lives of veterans and all Americans through healthcare discovery and innovation, including basic, translation, clinical, health services, and rehabilitative service research, and basically apply scientific knowledge to developing a range of effective individualized personal care solutions for veterans. We're honored today to be joined by Dr. Rachel Ramoni, who's the Chief Research and Development Officer at the VA, where she oversees the VA's national research enterprise, which encompasses over 2,000 current active projects at 100 sites with a total budget of over $2 billion in both direct VA support as well as research funding from outside entities like the National Institutes of Health. Dr. Ramoni earned her Doctor of Medicine and Dentistry degree from Harvard School of Dental Medicine, Master in Science and Doctor of Science in Epidemiology from Harvard School of Public Health. Prior to the VA, she was on the faculty of the New York University College of Dentistry in the Department of Epidemiology and Health Promotion, and at Harvard Medical School in the Department of Biomedical Informatics. While at Harvard, she founded and led the Undiagnosed Disease Network Coordinating Center, which was funded by the NIH and brought together clinical and research experts from across the country to solve challenging medical mysteries using various advanced technologies. Her research interests are in the areas of informatics, genomics, precision medicine. Prior to the role at UDN, she was an executive director of the Substitutable Medical Applications Reusable Technology Project, or SMART, which was launched with federal funding to make it easier for providers across different health segments to share information, electronic health records. She's led various projects at improving dental care nationwide. She's extensively published in a variety of publications, including birth defects research, epidemiology, circulation, Journal of Medical Association, long list here. All that being said, Dr. Ramoni, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, and please call me Rachel.
Will do, Rachel. Typically we start off the show by giving our guests the floor for a little while just to talk about themselves and introduce yourself. If you could take a little time just to go into your background, sort of the early days, sort of where you grew up, how you developed an interest in science and in dental medicine and epidemiology, and a little bit of your journey towards this extremely important leadership role at the VA, that'd be wonderful.
Sure thing. Yeah, so I was born in Chicago and have a great love of cities since then, hence my cityscape above me. And when I was 7, I moved to Laredo, Texas, right on the border to Mexico. And I was an only child, and my father was very eager that I should find out what I want to do in life. And so around the age of 10 or 11, he had me start I said I was interested in the sort of the health area. So he had me shadow all sorts of people through my teenage years. And I was a candy striper. I followed physical therapists. I went to the dentist office and I found the dentist office more appealing. And so I was set onto that path. And so I went away actually to high school a bit early. I went to college a bit early. In high school, that is, when during my junior and senior years, I went to this sort of state magnet school that they have in Texas called the Texas Academy of Math and Science. And that was a great experience for me. After which I went up to Hopkins, and I guess I should have guessed by my major there that really what I am is a dabbler rather than somebody who goes deeply into any areas. So I studied international relations while still doing all my pre-dental work. And I took that because it allowed me to do a wide variety of things rather than focus on one thing only. And so I continued along my path that was determined when I was younger to become a dentist, and I went up to Harvard, the Harvard School of Dental Medicine. I had a great experience there because the first 2 years of dental school there are actually spent with the medical students. And in addition to meeting my best friends there who were medical students, I also got a taste for the broader picture of health. And I think that's the intent at HSDM, as we call it, up at Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I was there, I was really, they emphasized at the Harvard School of Dental Medicine academic dentistry, and I thought, well, I'm going to become a professor. And my major interest was in public health.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed up for the dental public health residency and went to the Harvard School of Public Health and got a doctoral degree in epidemiology. And that again was a great experience. I got exposed to a wide variety of things, but what I in the end was drawn to was genetic epidemiology, which again brought me into contact with this wonderful world of bioinformatics, and that was all around the time of not long after the first full human genome was published. It was exciting times for genetics, and Harvard certainly had a lot going on in that area. So I got to know the folks in what would become the Department of Biomedical Informatics. And at that time, I was actually doing a career development award through NIH. They give you, K awards, they call them, to help you go from being a PhD student to getting your own career. And I'm a K award dropout because a good way through the program, I realized that what I really wanted to do was, as I called it then, be a high-level facilitator of research, and I managed to add on well paid there, so make sure I was headed in the right direction to pay off my student loans. And I went around telling everybody I could meet that that's really what I wanted to do, and ultimately a man named Zach Kohane, who's now the head of the Department of Biomedical Informatics there, took me seriously and offered me a job leading what you described as the Substitutable Medical Apps Reusable Technologies project, or SMART. And that was my first real job running a large research project, and I loved it. And Zach was an amazing boss, so he and I stuck together and did the Undiagnosed Diseases Network Coordinating Center together. That organization continues to exist. And from there, I was approached by somebody I'd met through the Undiagnosed Diseases Network. In fact, a dad of one of the people with undiagnosed diseases, and he ended up working at the White House and recommended me for this job. So out of the blue, I had just moved to New York. Out of the blue, the head of the Veterans Health Administration emails me and says, "You might not believe this, but I got your name from the White House." And I thought, yeah, you know what? I don't actually believe it, but I was headed down to DC anyway, so I said, oh yeah, well, let me meet you then. so I came down to DC and met with the then undersecretary and applied for this job, and so here I am. So I think my journey is one of saying yes to opportunities that roll along, and I think what I found about myself is that I'm more of a producer than an actor. So I'm more of a person who runs the research organization and the researchers themselves, and it's my job to make sure that the research organization runs smoothly and is efficient, and I love it, and I love my job at VA.
Wonderful. And yeah, you gotta like a recommendation from the White House, I guess.
Right, I know. I was like,
That's a good story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a wonderful introduction to you. If you could, we've done several shows recently with different parts, different organizations connected to the federal government, groups like NIH, CDC. We've done a few shows with DARPA, and there's a very interesting mix of sort of the research that occurs inside the organizations, or the intramural versus the partnerships, the extramural work. I'm sure, and there's not anybody sort of living here in the U.S. I was mentioning before the show, I live here in Philadelphia, and about a mile away is a major VA medical center. Could you take us for a few minutes on sort of a walk through sort of the research and development purview of the VA, sort of, where the research initiatives or the directives come from, and how sort of the research is conducted? Is it mainly conducted in the hospitals? Do you farm out research like some of they do at the NIH to sort of with external grant processes? How does it all sort of fit together? Because it is an amazingly large organization with a tremendous budget. Take us on a little walk through that, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, the VA is huge. It is the second largest government agency after the DoD. Has about 380,000 employees, out of which about 350,000 work for the Veterans Health Administration. I'm one of those 350,000. And VA research is unique because we are focused on the healthcare needs of veterans.
Mm-hmm.
We're the only organization that is exclusively focused on that. But we also are unique in the fact that we are an enormous research program embedded in the largest integrated healthcare system in the country.
Okay.
So in addition to contributing to veterans health, which is our primary focus, just because of the nature of the organization that we're able to shed light on conditions and provide evidence that are useful not only to veterans but to the entire world. We're also unique because we're unique in so many ways. We're also unique because VA, most researchers within VA, most clinicians also have an appointment at an academic center.
Okay.
So you can be both, and there are many people who are both at UPenn and spend part of their time at VA. And that is just how the Veterans Health Administration was built, backed by Omar Bradley, who had this wonderful idea about how VA could tap into the existing expertise. And so when you're at VA, you have a second identity usually.
Mm-hmm.
But in VA, we fund exclusively people who are affiliated with VA. You have to have a VA appointment to get funding from us to do research. We are an intramural program, and as you said, our work occurs across those over 1,000 settings in the country. And also sometimes work happens over at the academic affiliate because you have access to those resources as well. So if you think about, we are the largest integrated healthcare system, and on top of that, we have access to all of the medical centers in the country, the academic medical centers on top of that. So when you think of it as a whole, we have access to some extraordinary people and extraordinary persons, all of whom and which are focused on advancing the health and well-being of veterans.
Wonderful, wonderful. a couple of months ago, we spent some time with a representative of the NIH that was involved in the NIH's All of Us program, where they were basically gathering 1 million Americans and looking at in volunteer basis and looking at across a lifespan various pieces of data, genetic, lifestyle, environmental, metabolism, and so forth, to find very important sort of comprehensive precision medicine trends and ideas using this very large base. Now you have at VA, you have millions of patients, and you have a very sort of a similar program called the Million Veteran Program, where aside from looking at all these components, you're also bringing into that other factor that most of us do not have, which is military sort of exposure and the different things that these patients would experience post battle and sort of being in the military theater. Could you take us a little bit into what that program is all about and what some of the sort of the things that you're looking for specifically in the VA with these large sort of pieces of or large baskets of data?
Sure. So love the All of Us program. And if you say imitation is the highest form of flattery, well then I especially love the All of Us program because I think there are a lot of things that the All of Us program learned from the Million Veteran program.
Okay.
And there are, in fact, we collaborate with the All of Us program. Some of our sites co-enroll into All of Us and the Million Veteran program. And so I think it's just a fantastic opportunity to look beyond the veteran population into the broader civilian population through All of Us. So it's just a fantastic program. I'll have to go back and listen to your episode with them. So the Million Veteran Program began back in 2008, and now we've enrolled over 825,000 men and women, all of whom are veterans. And the vast majority of those are people who seek care in the VA, because until recently, we only enrolled veterans who seek care in the VA. So when you consider that the VA has a total population, it serves, at least the Veterans Health Administration, serves a population of 9 million people. We've almost got 10% of that population in the Million Veteran Program. And it's just a testament to how willing to step up veterans are. They're fantastic. They're partners in really this enterprise to understand how genes and lifestyle and exposures impact your health. And so in that sense, it's very similar to the All of Us program. In another sense, we have a special role because of our focus on the military. So you'll see several projects that we have for Million Veteran Program are specifically focused on the military. So for instance, Gulf War illness, searching for genetic markers that might have made one susceptible to Gulf War illness, or PTSD, for instance, is something that we are looking at in the Million Veteran Program. And of course, civilians also suffer from PTSD, but military-related PTSD is its own field. And so the other wonderful thing about the Million Veteran Program is, again, that we are embedded in a healthcare system. And so we are this year rolling out a return of results. So when Million Veteran Program started, all of these people are genotyped. To get their genetic analyses on all of these veterans. And when it rolled out, it was at a time when you didn't return results from research studies. And so initially we had envisioned just keeping all of that information in research, but as it became clear how much impact that information could potentially have on people's lives, we are undertaking some return of results initiatives. And one of those is around metastatic prostate cancer. And another area in which we're doing a lot of work is precision oncology. And one aspect is just like with breast cancer. In fact, there are many of the same genes shared in terms of risk for breast cancer and prostate cancer. the BRCA genes that many people might have heard of, for instance, variants in those also have value in the care of men with metastatic or high-risk prostate cancer. And so, if a man with metastatic prostate cancer has variants, certain variants, obviously, in these genes, he first of all is at higher risk for much more aggressive disease.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, there are specific treatments that can be used. And so it's really valuable information, not only for the veteran, but because it's a part of his, in this case, they're all men with prostate cancer, of course, of his DNA. It means that his relatives, both male and female, also may carry those variants. So it has value, let's say, to the veteran's daughters or sisters as well. And so we are undertaking a program to offer participants in MVP who may have had metastatic prostate cancer, to offer to return this information to them after, of course, careful validation. A second test that's up to clinical standards would be done before a definitive result is returned to them. But because we're part of a healthcare system, we can do that with the full wrapper of the healthcare system. Their doctor will be returning this information. It's not just a research project.
Right.
And then, of course, we're in a position to do something about it for the veterans because they are within that healthcare system. So I'm excited to put the data we have in Million Veteran Program to work for the veterans who are already participants in it, as well as down the line the discoveries that we might make. And I have to say that sort of my passion for directly helping participants is rooted directly in the Undiagnosed Diseases Network, where those were our whole objective was to diagnose individual patients. And again, that continues to this day. So a real focus on, you're not really subjects in this research study, as that term is sometimes used, but in Million Veteran Program, and this predates my arrival, but they're referred to as veteran partners. And, looking out for their health in this way is a way that we demonstrate it is a true partnership.
Outstanding. Continuing along that theme, because I know precision oncology is an extremely important area of yours. Obviously, you have the ability with this giant data sets to find the genomic profiling, what drugs will work, what drugs might not, and so forth. Are you also doing along the precision oncology lines? Do you have sort of specific clinical trials that go on in these areas at the VA? Anything specific in that area that you can talk about?
Yes. So first, why are we looking at precision oncology? Why not, let's say, focus on TBI and PTSD? Some people are surprised to hear that VA has such a strong focus on oncology, but of course, 50,000 veterans in VA are diagnosed with cancer each year, and we have 325,000 of veterans in VA who are living with a cancer diagnosis. So it's a big issue for our population, and we want to first and foremost make sure that our veterans get the very best treatment possible. And today that means treatment that is based on DNA sequencing for some cancers, specific gene tests for other cancers, and so on and so forth. So, and we've initially focused on number one, the most common cancer in VA, which reflects some demographics of veterans, which is prostate cancer, and then the deadliest cancer in VA, which is lung cancer.
Okay. So
working hand in hand with our clinical partners who lead the Precision Oncology program, we are establishing clinical trials networks and actively identifying veterans, no matter where they might be, who might be eligible for these clinical trials, because some clinical trials can easily be conducted at a distance. Others, as you might imagine, if there are medical interventions that have to take place in a hospital, don't lend themselves well to what we call these virtual trials. But in VA, in the population of veterans who are living with cancer, about half of them live in rural areas. So it's not enough to get the best cancer treatment to the big cities like Philadelphia, where in fact we have one of our prostate cancer sites, but we need to make sure that it reaches veterans everywhere. So we are, in fact, we're funding clinical trials ourselves, initially focused on prostate cancer, and we soon will be standing up our network of sites for lung cancer precision oncology, and one of the areas of focus there is going to be access to clinical trials, not only at those sites, but spreading it out beyond the walls of those sites. So that's a big area for us, in addition to making ourselves a partner of choice for pharma companies. We want our veterans to have access to the same types of studies, of clinical trials that are available at MD Anderson, Memorial Sloan Kettering, all of the top places. Dana-Farber, if I didn't mention that, having been in Boston, I would be a bad Bostonian. And so we view that as a vital part of providing comprehensive cancer care, is offering clinical trials. So we've taken steps to make it much easier to partner with VA on starting up multi-site clinical trials.
Obviously, we're recording this interview in the middle of a major pandemic, with everything going on the last several months with COVID. Quite a lot of activity on the the diagnostics front has been occurring. Obviously, on the vaccine development, some therapeutic with convalescent plasma and small molecule drugs and so forth. COVID is, of course, an important target of the VA. Also, it's part of the population because it is a disease that's disproportionately affects older individuals. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the broad spectrum of what VA is looking at here within its own population, and some of what you're doing on the research front?
Yeah, well, and as you can see, I am speaking to you from my home office, aka my couch, which is
Me too.
now my base for VA research, and so a lot has changed over the past year. But what hasn't changed is that we're committed to addressing challenges that face veterans, and one of the biggies right now is COVID, both the direct and the indirect effects of COVID. Mm-hmm. So speaking first to the direct effects, as you mentioned, VA research really spans the entire waterfront. We have basic science, we have clinical science, we have health services research, rehabilitation, and that's true of our COVID research as well. So we have everything from understanding the body's immune response to the virus. We have a clinical trial that we're conducting in collaboration with the innovation ecosystem in VA on testing 3D printed nasal swabs to see, do they work as well? Are there safety concerns with 3D printed swabs? Because, to meet some of the demands for nasal swabs in COVID-19, not just the VA, but the entire country was turning to local manufacturing, so that you're not as dependent on the traditional supply chain. We have artificial intelligence type analyses of the data in our electronic health record to look for real world evidence for the safety and effectiveness of drugs. And we're also doing large clinical trials. One of the trials that we're going to be starting up actually is on a randomized controlled trial of convalescent plasma, which, as you know, was just granted emergency use authorization, and still there is the call for conducting a randomized controlled trial. And And what I find for VA research is that because we're not motivated by a profit factor at all in VA research, we have the incentive to do the types of studies that that pharma won't fund. It's not in their bailiwick to fund, and so we find that that's a place where we like to be active. And then on the indirects of COVID-19, obviously a big one for VA and veterans is on the mental health effects of COVID-19. And so we've got a number of projects going on in that area as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. I wanted to ask before we get to the just one of the wrap-up questions. I wanted to ask you one quick thing, because when you were talking about the Undiagnosed Disease Network before and some of the work you'd done there, you know, I had a couple months ago I did a show with somebody over at University of Pennsylvania, Dr. David Feigenbaum, who his big story is the fact that he discovered.
My cure.
Yeah. Just wondering offhand, and if it's confidential stuff, you know, any interesting unknown mysteries that have popped out of the Million Veteran Program, new diseases that that you may have discovered so far? It was just piquing my mind when I was thinking of Dr. Feigenbaum before. But any interesting things to note there? If it's confidential, we have to go into that.
Oh, no. That is not confidential information. So what I would say is that we are starting to increase our focus on rare diseases that may affect veterans, and I put in that category also, though it's not rare among veterans, it's rare overall. Gulf War illness is an area where we're working to understand more and to understand the genetic underpinnings of disease. But what I would say, one of the major things I took away from the Undiagnosed Diseases Network is that, yes, we have these cases of truly extremely rare presentations of disease. But what they're seeking in those diseases is really to understand the root cause of the condition so that they can treat it. So the work of the Undiagnosed Diseases Network was very intensive. I mean, I have still on my personal laptop a picture of the zebrafish that were helping us to diagnose patients. And so what I would say that helped me to understand is that conditions that we have names for don't necessarily have known root causes. So when we say PTSD, that likely is a catch-all for what are a collection of things that have some sort of convergent evolution to the same presentation. So in some ways, all disease should be treated as a rare disease with a desire to understand what the root causes are and to treat those root causes. So I would say that some of the same approaches apply in these more common diseases.
You mentioned early in the show the influence of Dr. Kohani at Harvard, sort of early on in your career. I want to talk just a little bit when we typically wrap up the show with a dive into some of these mentors and influencers that sort of, if it wasn't for them, Dr. Rachel Ramoni would be doing something else right now, practicing law, real estate, whatever it may be. Are there other influencers along this lines that you might want to mention, shout out to at this point, that have really sort of shaped your direction, your vision as you continue to develop your career and obviously these different programs? Anyone specifically, a group that you might want to highlight that was really influential in bringing you this far?
Yeah, yes, I'd like to thank my preschool teacher. I'm actually kidding. Although I was queen of my preschool graduation, marks a highlight in my life, apart from leading VA research. But you know, again, I just like to mention Zach Kohane, who really gave me my first job in running a large organization, a large research organization, even though I had no business whatsoever doing so. So he took a chance on me, and a lot of a lot of how I approach problems comes from Zach. And so bioinformatics is really an engineering field, and they have a very practical focus of solving a problem, getting to an outcome, and there's also this sense of iteration. So get something out fast and then iterate, rather than a prolonged sort of planning phase followed by executing the perfect study. It was more about, let's learn as we improve it. And so Zach is just a wonderful person, very prolific in his field, and just a very decent and kind person as well. So he also taught me about how you should treat people in your organization. And I got to know that very early on because one of the other people who influenced me, and you'll notice my last name is Ramoni. I was married, and unfortunately my husband passed away. And he was in bioinformatics also, and specifically in AI. And he knew Zach as well. And my husband was a big influence on me, obviously, because he had such a passion for bioinformatics and for what it could do for the world, and was a wonderful person in more ways than I can share here. But when he passed away, Zach came to the hospital to get me and took me to his house, and made sure that I was taken care of. And that just is the kind of person that I hope to be as well. Somebody who puts people first. And the other person I'd like to point out is Dick Nodell. So back when I first started running that SMART project, substitutable medical apps for reusable technologies, as I said, I had no business running a large project, and so I spoke to a friend of mine, and she'd run Wellesley. She had been the president of Wellesley for many years. I met her through my best friend, whom I met in medical school. So all these things connect up to one another. And she recommended to me a man called Dick Nodell. And he really taught me how to treat kind of the organization as its own entity, and how to care for an organization, and care for the people within the organization by making sure the organization itself is healthy and supportive to them. And so I learned just a whole lot from him as well. And he continues to be, as does Zach, a close friend of mine.
Wonderful. Thank you really for sharing that. And thank you for telling the story about your husband. I'm sorry for your loss, but you clearly have the passion to continue this vision. It's really inspiring. Rachel, it's really been fascinating listening to you, and just thinking about the scope of what you're managing there, and these programs. It's just so important, and really wishing you the best moving it all forward. For everybody that's going to be watching on the YouTube channel or listening on the various podcast networks, we've been with Dr. Rachel Ramoni, Chief Research and Development Officer at the Veterans Administration, really doing amazing things for improving not just the lives of veterans, but the lives of all Americans through healthcare discovery, innovation, and really running this whole integrated R&D organization at the largest integrated healthcare organization in the United States. Rachel, thank you for taking the time to come on the show. Thank you for everything you're doing. And as we say, thank you for moving the human story forward. It's been really very inspiring.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.